Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Behind the Post. I am Olivia Messina, the social media and community manager at Oktopost, and today I'm coming to you with a solo episode about how to launch and maintain an employee advocacy program, even if you're nervous that you might not have the bandwidth to do so. So, as social media managers, we do have a lot of activities going on day to day, and launching and leading an employee advocacy program is a lot of work. To put it simply, it is not something that you can just set and forget, but the benefits of a program really make it all worth it. And employee advocacy is really a hot topic for B2B brands right now. And we've seen that brands that use employee advocacy are earning 25 to 40% more overall engagement than brands that don't, which is really incredible. And in our recent State of B2B Marketing report, we found that on average, nearly half of CMOs said that employee advocacy was their best performing social initiative. So there are a lot of benefits to starting an employee advocacy program. It amplifies your brand, it helps deepen the trust of your audience. At the end of the day, people buy from people, and people like to engage with other people on social media. They're more likely to engage with a person than they are a brand. So there are really so many benefits of starting an employee advocacy program. The list goes on and on. And I could talk about it for forever, but today I really wanted to go in and kind of break down what it takes to really start a program and then how you can maintain it, because the challenge is really getting started. And I think that's where a lot of social media managers or whoever is going to start the program is having a little bit of nervous feelings there, because they just don't know if they have the time and the energy to really dedicate to a program. But the hurdle is really getting started and setting up that program for success. And then once you have it set up and you find a good routine and you start seeing results, you'll be motivated to keep going. So you can have the bandwidth, you can find a way to make it work, but you really just have to get started. So let's jump into it and get started. Once you have decided that you want to have a program and you have a platform to support this, like I said, you'll need to outline a plan of how you're going to implement this program. So I could probably talk for 3 hours on how to do this and each step and all of the details, but in respective time, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what you can expect and what you should plan for. And then you can go from there. And again, you might think you don't have the bandwidth, but I'm going to show you that you can balance things and you can make this work. And again, once you have everything set up, it's just about maintaining it. So, first and foremost, when you go to start your program, you will need to outline who you want to onboard first. So, I would recommend starting with a small pilot. Um, Identify the people who are already posting on social, who have already built up their personal brands. These are going to be your social enthusiasts, people that enjoy posting on social. I would also try to identify your colleagues that are excited about social media, that want to post, that want to grow their personal brand, but maybe they just don't know how to get started. These are such a good group of people to get started with, because they're going to be excited to participate. And they might already know some of the benefits about being active on social. So, this group of people, they're probably in customer facing roles like marketing or sales or customer success. So, not only will they be easier to onboard, but they're also going to be your best bet for kind of demonstrating the success. And we actually already have a full episode over on the Radically Transparent podcast about who to onboard first for a healthy program. And Jennifer Gutman goes into extreme detail on the steps and who exactly you need to onboard first to have a healthy and successful program. So if you want to hear more on that, go check out that episode. But once you've identified who you want to onboard first, who is going to be a part of your initial pilot, you will need to create your content strategy. Now, I know this might sound a little bit intimidating when you are creating content for all of the employees to share out. You might be nervous. How do I know what they want to share? What is the good mix? What type of content should I be sharing day to day? So, I'm going to give you a few tips here on how you can kind of create your strategy and really nail down what your content should look like. If you really want to nail your employee advocacy, if you really want this to work, and if you want to stay relevant on social, your content has to be diverse. You don't want your advocates to sound spammy, and you don't want your advocates to only push company content because they're not the corporate channel. And even your corporate channels shouldn't be just corporate content. So, a good mix is usually 50% company content, 25% industry content, and then 25% personal interest content. Because not only are you using your advocates as an additional marketing channel, but you're also helping them build up their personal brands so they can also build connections and build trust in their own community to help aid in social selling and things like that. So you're not only just helping reach your marketing goals by using your advocates to preach your message, but you're also helping them build up their personal brand as well. So it's important to keep that in mind, that the content needs to be diverse. Now, another thing that I really recommend doing is send out a survey to your advocates to best understand what they really care about sharing. Because I will tell you, it is very hard to create content for other people to share if you don't have a deep understanding about what they actually care about sharing and posting. And it can be really challenging. So, if you do not have a deep understanding, I would recommend sending out a survey and really getting into the details of what type of content do they really care about sharing. Because, again, if you are creating more thought leadership content for them to share out, you have to have a deep understanding of what they care about posting and how they want to create their personal brand. So, it's really, really important to have a deep understanding of your advocates. One thing that I really encourage running Oktopost's employee advocacy program, I try to keep an open line of communication with my advocates. And I really encourage them to send me suggestions, and I allowed them to give me that feedback. If they want more curated content, you know, let me know and I can get that on the board, because again, we are trying to help our advocates, and you also need to listen to them and get their feedback if you really want this program to work. So once you've outlined your content strategy and what that content playlist is going to look like, next thing you're going to do is host some training sessions. So you can do this a few different ways. I would recommend breaking it up into a few different sessions, doing one session on how to use the platform, what to do when they log on and share out content. You have to show them how to do each and every step because you want them to share content. So you have to make it as easy as possible for them to go on and do that. If it's confusing, if something's not making sense to them, they're not going to be as likely to share out content. So you want to do a series of training sessions on just how to use the platform. You'll also want to host a few sessions around the why behind the program, why you are doing this, why you're asking them to participate and share out content. What results are you trying to see from this program? And this is also a very good time to talk about some social media best practices. Just because they are posting on social media, they might not know all of the best practices that you know as a social media manager. So now is a great time to communicate those. For example, talking about best practices per network and things like that. For example, LinkedIn versus Twitter. The way that they share content is going to be very different on both. The lifespan of a tweet is much shorter than the lifespan of a LinkedIn post. And you really have to educate them on algorithms and things like that. So this is a really good time to communicate with them some best practices around social media so they can really get the most out of what they're posting. This is also a good time to talk about personal branding and how to find your voice on social and the importance of that. And also other things that you are expecting of them. This could be personalizing messages. Again, employee advocacy works so well because it's coming from a person. And you don't want your advocates to be sharing out the exact same message. So you want to encourage them to personalize each message and make it sound like it's coming from them and have them add their personal touch. So those are a few things you can include in those training sessions. And I also really encourage allowing time for questions. You really want your employees to feel very supported in this. So allow time for questions and really try to support them as best as possible and make it very easy for them to log on and share content. So make sure you are sharing all of your expectations and the real why behind why you are doing this, why you are launching this employee advocacy program. All right. So now most of the hard part is over. You've decided who you want to onboard first. You have created your content playlist and you've trained your advocates so they are ready to go, ready to share out content. And now really comes maintaining your program and keeping that momentum going. I would say that creating content and encouraging your advocates to post are most likely going to be the most challenging parts of leading a program. If you are feeling overwhelmed in this, just know that you are not alone. I too feel overwhelmed with the sheer amount of content needed to keep up a healthy program. But I have found a few things that have worked for me and that have helped me kind of manage creating all of this content for not only our corporate channels, but also for our employee advocacy program as well. So I have found that in order to keep your advocates happy, you need to have new content on the board every day. So that can seem overwhelming to have a ton of content that's different from your corporate channels, ready for your advocates to share out every day. But this is what I do, and this is how I kind of manage it. So there's two different ways that I can do this. So the first way is I sit down and I batch out all of the content for the week or weeks to come for advocacy. So this is a lot of content at once. But it's a one-time thing. You're sitting down, you're creating this content, and then for the next week or two, you do not have any content to create for advocacy unless things pop up. As you know, social media managers, we always have to be on our toes. Things pop up. But you always know you have those core posts that you have scheduled to go out, and your advocates will have posts every single day to share out. So that's one way I do it, is sitting down and batching it all at once. Sometimes, working in social and I have my hands in other projects, as I'm sure most social media managers listening in do as well. It's really hard to find the time to sit down and create that much content at once. So another way I have kind of managed this is sitting down 2 to 3 times per week and creating a few posts at a time. So it makes it a little more manageable to kind of sit down and just batch out 2 to 3 posts at a time, as opposed to all of your content for a week or two. So this is just another way of looking at it, but I always encourage finding what works best for you, because again, if you're leading this program, you will have to figure out exactly what works best for you and how you can keep up with the amount of content needed to keep your program healthy and successful. So I always encourage you to find what works best for you and how you can best manage this. And the last little piece of this puzzle that I want to chat about today is how to keep the momentum of your program going. Because I hate to break it to you, but at some point or another, your advocate shares will slow down. And that's normal. that you have to find a way to keep that momentum going and keep that excitement that I'm sure all your advocates felt in the beginning. So there are a few different ways that you can go about this. And for me, as also an advocate myself, I love to see the results. I love to see the engagement metrics and how my posts are performing, and seeing that I'm actually making a difference. That keeps me going and that makes me excited to share out more content. So I would encourage finding a platform that allows your advocates to see this engagement data right in the platform. So they don't have to go searching anywhere else for it. They're not having to rely on you to get that engagement data. It really will motivate your advocates to keep sharing. I know it's motivated me as someone who leads a program and also participates in it as well. Um, if you are unable to do that, or in addition to, having your advocates check in on their own engagement data, you can send out weekly updates. So you can do this a few different ways. You can do it on Slack, you can do it on email, but showing them that what they are doing every single day is actually making a difference, showing them the engagement, showing them the conversions, showing them the reach. It is so, so motivating to know that you are making a difference. So I always would encourage you to share that engagement data back with your advocates. Um, a more fun way to kind of spark a little bit of friendly competition is to gamify your program. So there are a few different ways that you could do this. At Oktopost, we are running a contest right now, and we are giving prizes to the top 3 advocates with the most number of clicks at the end of the quarter. But it's fun to kind of switch it up sometimes to not only give prizes to the top 3 advocates with the most amount of shares, because that might lead to other advocates not participating because they may think that they'll never be able to be another colleague. So doing a raffle really can switch it up, because only giving the top advocates a prize might lead other advocates to not post as much or not participate because they know there's no way they'll ever be able to beat someone who's always at the top. So a raffle is a good way to switch it up, and you can make it a little more fun by saying the top 10 advocates with the most amount of clicks or the most amount of shares will go into a raffle, and we'll pick 3 winners from there. So that's just one example. You can do a raffle, you can have a contest. You can also split advocates up into different teams. This could be really fun if you want to split up maybe your US team versus your UK team, or maybe you want to do sales versus marketing. There's a lot you could really do here. And something simple to encourage sharing is maybe having a posting minimum. So the expectation is that you share at least 10 posts per month. But you can, of course, set that metric to whatever you want. But just putting a few things in place to help keeping your advocates coming back for more, sharing more content, but also really enjoying it and seeing that it's working, and ultimately motivating them to keep going. So that is a plan and a little bit of what you can expect if you are going to launch your own employee advocacy program. And I will say, yes, it does take a lot of work, but once you get started, once you set your routines, you will find that you probably do have the bandwidth to keep your program going. So there's so much more that I could dive into. And if you would like to continue the conversation, reach out to me. We can keep chatting about employee advocacy, and please let me know what else you would like to know about employee advocacy. I know we kind of just skimmed the surface here. There is so much more to dive into and chat about. So if you would like to continue the conversation, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me, olivia@oktopost.com, and I will see you next time behind the post.